connected permanent power with Bojangles. As Patrick stated, they should be frying up some chicken here shortly. Started adding some transformers to St. Ives. They're building on some lots that they hadn't planned on building before. A lot of 3 or 4 housing. How many housing starts in there? Good man.
Yes.
More than we expected. So that's good news. We've got some big residential customers coming online. Started the leak survey for the cable plant a little late this year. We had to get some new equipment. The company that provided the old equipment went out of business. So we started that. Everything seems to be going fine. We have got the new CMTS up and running. That's the cable modem terminating system that you approved several months ago. It's up and running and configured. If we'll ever get us a little break in the weather, we'll start moving the nodes over and be able to provide faster internet service. And we have installed the HD equipment that you approved for the upgrade to this room. We've installed it, got it up and running. And as soon as we do the upgrades to the rest of the room, and some of the camera equipment has started coming in, we started configuring that. So once we get the room done, we will be prepared on the electronic side. And I'll take any questions you may have. Oh, one thing that happened today, Leggett and Platt, their transformer failed. It's 2,500 kVA. They've got 2. One failed a little after 7 o'clock this morning, and we had to put our spare in place. And got a lot of help from Jeremiah and his staff and Rodney and his staff. It was real wet. We couldn't get the crane closed until Jeremiah and them came in and helped us basically build a road out to the transformer. Got that changed, got everything done in less than 8 hours. I was very happy with my crews and their crews' performance. But we will be having to buy a new replacement spare 2,500 kVA to have on the yard. And I don't have quotes back, but I'm estimating anywhere from $30,000 to $45,000, maybe even a little north of that. But I hope to have that for you next Tuesday as an emergency purchase. We do have access to other 2,500s through other cities through our mutual aid response, or agreement. But we've got about 4 or 5 of those in the system. Now we need to have one on the yard. But I'll update y'all as we move forward, and when the quotes come in, I'll send them to you. And now I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Finance. Logan.
All right, thank you. Just a few brief items to report here. In addition to the budget work we've been doing over the past couple of months, which you were all a part of, we've had the bond refinancings. Just an update on that. That will close on the 8th this week. Glad to see that process come to close, and it's we timed it just right. Otherwise, the savings would not have been there for us the way the market moved shortly after the election. So everything was timed perfectly. So we'll see the savings that we talked about earlier. We've had the county tax commissioner has done a great job doing our tax collections this year. That's yielded about 10% more than we did in-house collections in the previous year. So he's right at about 95%, which is very strong, and hopefully he'll move on up to about 98 or 99. That's his target, which would be excellent. We also have completed repair work to the exterior of City Hall and Community Building. Garland did a great job. The work appears to be high quality and hopefully will last us many years. So that has come to completion. We will finish up painting the front and rear doors in-house with our crews, just to give it a good completed look. Moving into the reports, basically all of our performance indicators show that everything's pretty level right now. We haven't lost any customers to any extent. Our incoming calls are pretty constant. Our work orders are basically tracking along right where they have been the past couple of months. So nothing outstanding in that area. Our extensions for requests have declined a little bit. That's probably just more related to favorable billing cycles with the better weather. Nothing major outstanding there. Moving into the financial status report. Cash balances as of October 31st total $32.8 million. That's an increase of $7.46 million over the prior year. All funds So obviously moving in the right direction there year over year. Just a note, we didn't anticipate dipping into that stabilization fund, but for cash flow purposes we did, just because the tax collections were held by the tax commissioner a little longer than we anticipated, but that will then be paid back. You should see that on the subsequent reports. I actually got the check today from the tax commissioner, totaling $1.752 million to add to that cash balance. Utility is showing some strong gains there, cash-wise as well. I also want to note the utility GFA fund. We had $300,000 shown as restricted for quite a while now. Just a little maneuver as far as this refunding has gone. That's allowed us to free up that $300,000, which I would recommend just kind of holding back for any future GFA or loan projects that we may have come online in the future. But so that was a silver lining there. We can free up that $300,000 more than likely once this deal closes. Moving into the general fund, this is before the taxes are shown to come in, but we are at 64.71% revenue, tracking at 79.3% expenses. That will true up a little more as we go into your subsequent November and December reports. Insurance premium tax and building permits are the major drivers for the general fund this year as far as being over budget in a good way. Combined utilities, we're looking at total revenue of about 88%. Expenses, that's about 70%. So continue to hold the line on spending with the utilities, but our revenue picture is looking solid. Moving on to solid waste. Through October, we're at about 80%, 79% on the revenue side. Expenses are about 68%, so we have a nice little cushion in solid waste. Things are going pretty well there. SPLOST continues to track just under budget each month, but our collections are overall kind of right on budget when you look at the 2013 through 2016 picture. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Logan. Fire?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fire department had 205 total calls for service in October. Received 180 calls to the fire department. Had 13 public relation events, conducted 256 training hours. In November, I know we're not talking about November, but I don't want to forget the fire that the guys worked down in Camptown Garden. They just done an excellent job in that fire. The way that area is configured, it could have been a full residence loss pretty quickly. So I just want to commend the men and women of the fire department, and when I say women, we have hired our first female firefighter in the city of Monroe. So, but they've done an excellent job. Pending your questions. Police department handled 3,461 calls for service, had 1,645 calls to the PD. There was 209 municipal court cases, conducted 246 hours of training, had 89 Part 1 crimes, 137 Part 2 crimes, arrested 62 adults, 1 juvenile. You can see the community events there. Pending your questions.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Solid waste?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All of our stats and training down for the month of October. We did replace quite a few carts, 98 containers that we replaced on the route. The only other thing I have, I just want to remind the citizens about our holiday schedule coming up. It'll be the last week of December and the first week of January. The Monday and Tuesday customers are going to get pushed back a bit. We did send out advance notices, but some of our Thanksgiving customers missed it. But please call our office if they're not sure. Please call the office. We want to make sure we take care of everybody. That's all I have.
You go on that schedule again, man.
The week of the 26th, the day after Christmas, we're off on the 26th. Monday customers will be picked up on the 27th. Tuesday customers will be picked. Wednesday customers will be picked up on the 28th. That's a Wednesday, and Thursday customers on schedule, 29th. And the same schedule will be for New Year's, the following week.
Thank you, Dan.
Mr. Mayor, can I make one alibi?
Yes.
That's not the first female firefighter the city of Monroe's had. It's the first one in a while. Also, just talk to parents, ask you to really be careful and take care of the children during the parade. The parade's going to be a very big parade this time, and we're going to put some stuff out, and just look after yourself and your kids. But you know, the biggest thing is staying out of the roadway once the parade gets started. And I apologize, Jeremiah, but thank you for the time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Street, I'm sure Jeremiah wants to say something about the parade too.
Just before we get to the parade, highlighting the report for the month of October, the admin side, we rented out the community building 5 times. Our fleet maintenance division completed 82 units of work throughout each department of the city. Our grounds division picked up just a little bit over a ton of litter throughout the streets. Our street division has continued, and actually in October is when we finished our LMIG project. That's our paving projects for the year. And as well as that, we've continued work on the sidewalk, the new installment on East Church Street. We're still making pretty good progress on that, finally fighting some weather issues, but that's not a bad thing there. Our sign and markings division has completed 88 units of work. Our building maintenance division completed 77. And I'll be glad to take any questions on that.
Okay, thank you, Jeremiah. Water, sewer, gas, and stormwater, right?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just going to hit on a couple of things. One being the water plant. You notice in the month of October, we're still above 80 million gallons of water being processed. And it looks like November's going to be the same. Irrigation has really surprised me this year. In the month of November, we actually had an increase in our irrigation usage. November was actually higher than July and August. So that was a big surprise. Notice the leaks continued, 42 leaks repaired for the month of October. Just the last 2 weeks of November, we had 52 leak calls. So those have continued to increase. I also want to mention too that we had one of our best months at the training center, 94 total trained. I think that's probably one of our biggest months. With the level 2 drought, the state's passed some new response strategies, and we're required to implement 4 out of the 10. I want to make you aware of the ones that we'll be doing. Public information campaign, with trees, to do some bill stuffers, some Facebook and social media type stuff, and then also the paper. We also have the retrofit kits available. We've got some more on order. That'll be the new shower heads, faucet, whatever you call them, reducers. We'll be implementing, actually we've already done this, it's the drought surcharge program, or a tiered conservation water rate. We actually did that back in January of '05 when we changed our rates to where the more you use, the more it costs you, instead of the more you use, less. So that's already been done, and then we'll implement, or have implemented, our leak detection and repair program. Brought a contractor in to help us try to get caught up on these leaks and hopefully stay caught up through the winter. And just a quick update on the river and the reservoir, recent rains. The reservoir's up about a foot, almost a foot and a half. The river's up about a foot. So everything's looking good there. We seem to be, I think here, next couple of weeks, as the rain continues, I believe we're going to be in really good shape. So should recover real well. That's all I got. You got any questions?
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
That completes our department reports. We'll move into committee information. Finance have anything?
We don't tonight,
Okay, airport.
Yes, Mayor. Larry Fussell, Commission Chair, wanted to give us a report on last month's November meeting, if that's okay.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and Council, you have the minutes of the November meeting with you. We've been working on a number of projects at the Airport Commission. Fuel Farm continues to generate good sales on a monthly basis. We're very proud of that. It's also generating very positive comments for the airport in general as our transient pilots come through. Happy Light conflicts. This is the Precision Approach Path Indicator Light project. The conflicts have been resolved. We're waiting on the FAA to do their flight check. Pretty much the same with the LVP approach into Monroe. That resides now with the FAA for their final approval and flight check. The AWOS system, Automated Weather Observation System, there's been some dispute over the location of the antenna and the actual equipment on the field with the FAA, within the FAA. They're kind of arguing among themselves, so we're waiting on them to figure that out. In November, we reviewed the CIP projects for this coming year, and the Commission voted unanimously on the lowest cost airport layout plan development for the future. We also thought it was the right one for the airport. It's poised to help us grow, but not to limit us by trying to build Taj Mahals that we can never get to. Also, the City Council, we appreciate you approving the lease for Mr. Nunley. We think the FBO relocating to the airport will be a prime positive aspect for the coming year. The Georgia Airport Association Conference presented quite a number of topics. Many of them were quite good and informative. The one that really stuck with us, though, was that in the coming year, discretionary grants for income-producing opportunities will not be funded. So that kind of changed our directions on the way we're looking at things in the next year or two for the airport. In the commission meeting, a motion was brought and unanimously approved to bring to the commission, which will be done a little bit later this evening, a proposal to search out funding for airport hangars, a vast need at the airport. And if it is okay with the council at this point, I'd like to turn this part over to Mr. Etheridge. He's done some research that I think you need to hear.
He's running this part.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Rodney Etheridge. I think I know most of you. I've asked Larry, I put together a little handout, and Larry's going to hand that out. I'll preface while he's doing that. A couple of times last year, I was asked to speak at the Monroe, I think it was the Lions Club and the Rotary Club. They asked me to talk about Airport Commission and what's going on. I had a chance to put together a PowerPoint presentation on some really interesting information to me. And so what I did, I knew at the time was limited tonight. I just put together some highlights from my PowerPoint presentation that I just want to take a minute to go over real quickly. It kind of gives you an overview of the proposal that Larry just mentioned, that the motion that was made at our last meeting to build hangars. And I wanted to kind of just give you guys a quick overview and answer any questions you might have, just to kind of know exactly where we're coming from. And my PowerPoint presentation, I always enjoy asking groups when I talk to them, a simple question, when you compare two airports, everybody knows about Atlanta Hartsfield, we know about big airports, but we sometimes don't really know about little airports. And so I like to start off with the question, what's the #1 revenue source for a large airport like Atlanta Hartsfield? And nobody ever gets it right because you see that it's parking. You know, parking is huge. That's where they make a lot of money. And you can see real quick on that sheet I gave you, I just put some bullet points of what are the revenue sources for a large airport. And then when you get down to an airport like Monroe, we have a few, but really right now we only have two. We have fuel sales and hangar rentals. Eventually, as we grow, we'll get some better land leases and some more corporate people coming in. You'll see in a minute where other airports have that. Property taxes right now don't bring a lot of money to the city. That, of course, that's split between the city and the county. But I'm going to share with you in a minute, when you get into the larger corporate aircraft, you're getting into some pretty big dollars there. And then, of course, aircraft tie-downs are very minimal. But fuel sales, like Larry mentioned, have been really strong. We made a proposal, last year to put in a new fuel facility, and it has exceeded our expectations and done extremely well. And I do want to highlight that to you guys. Now, what drives fuel sales is aircraft. And it's aircraft that are based on the airport, and then aircraft that are transient that are coming in. And that brings me to the hangars. When we talk about hangars, that's a very large revenue source. And what we have been looking at for years is our current hangar situation at Monroe. If you look at the pictures that I gave you, if you flip to the Monroe sheet, right now we currently have, in the middle left, you'll see we have 16 T hangars. And those hangars have been full since the day they were built, and there's been a long waiting list. Currently, I have 33 names on a waiting list. Probably 5 or 6 of those names have already left and gone elsewhere. But I do have with me tonight a commitment from, I've got 10 people that are that have given me letters telling me that they are ready to lease a hangar at this point right now. I mentioned it in my statement a while ago. There's currently, I have 33 names on my list. I think the city has the same number of names on their list. But we have been keeping this ongoing list for a long time just to see who wants hangars. And there's been a need for hangars for a long time. I wanted to highlight a couple of pictures. I learned years ago I grew up kind of retail business, and I learned years ago in retail, if you really want to stay on top of things, find out what your competition is doing. And once you know what your competition's doing, that kind of drives, I think, what you should do. Our biggest competition for economic development as it relates to an airport, and as we grow our airport, is Winder. Winder's the airport that has really been proactive. And so that's why I put together that little picture. I wanted you guys to see, some of you are familiar with it and some are not. But when you look at an airport terminal building, that's the Winder Airport Terminal Building, very nice building. I like talking about Zaxby's. Zaxby's is a company we're all familiar with. The owners of Zaxby's live closer to the Monroe Airport than they do to the Winder Airport, but they chose to build their corporate facility at the Winder Airport because we don't have the current facilities that we need in order to attract a customer like that. So I wanted you guys to see the beautiful hangar that Zaxby's built at Winder. Also at the Winder Airport, they have an avionics repair shop, they have a maintenance repair shop, and you'll see that they have 5 large corporate hangars. And I wanted to make a little point about that real quick. The corporate hangars, when you get into corporate hangars like the airplane to the right, that's a King Air. That King Air is actually owned by a family in Monroe that I fly for. And that one airplane, they paid $64,000 in taxes. But one airplane will generate that kind of tax revenue. Small general aviation aircraft that most of us fly, we're paying $500 or $600 a year in our property taxes. But when you get into a $5 million airplane like that, $5.5 million airplane, it generates an enormous amount of tax revenue that comes back to the city and the county. So I wanted to highlight that. The picture at the bottom is just an overview of what Winder has. They have probably about 5 times the amount of hangars that we have, and they're all full, and they're always full. I have a letter from one of the individuals that was on our waiting list for hangars. I called him last week and I said, "Are you still interested in a hangar?" And he said, "Man, I just finally got a hangar at Winder." And he sent me a letter, and I'm going to read a couple of excerpts real quick. He just said, Winder called the other day before I was leaving to go on a trip, and I had been on their waiting list for 3 years for a hangar, and they finally called and said my name came up, and I got a hangar at Winder. And he wrote some other things. He just made a point here. There is a need for more hangar space all around Atlanta. He started his letter by saying, I've been on a waiting list for a hangar at every airport within an hour-and-a-half drive of his home in Sugar Hill, Georgia. And that's where he lives. And he just wanted to make that point is, yes, he would have taken a hangar, but he just got one from Winder. Real quick, I wanted to mention Covington Airport. Again, you can see Covington's current airport FBO. They have a nice terminal building, 2 large corporate hangars. Covington's also in need of more T hangars, and they recognize that their need. And Covington just broke ground this summer on a major renovation. The picture in the lower right is an aerial view of what Covington spent time this summer doing, clearing land. They're getting ready to change their whole layout of their airport to come off of Alcovey and Highway 142. And they poured concrete a few weeks ago for their new terminal building. And that's where it's going to go in that lower left there. So just, I won't take a lot more time. I just wanted to mention that to you guys. And let me grab this. Oh, yeah, okay. On the sheet at Monroe, currently I put down there, in Walton County, I went to the FAA's website and I did a search of the number of aircraft that are owned by individuals that live in Walton County. And the search came back, there's 66 total aircraft that are in Walton County that are owned by people that live in Walton County. 5 of those are corporate aircraft, one being the airplane I mentioned there, that King Air. Of those 66, we have 23 of those aircraft are on our airport right now. So that kind of lays out to you guys. Hopefully it does to me. There's 66 people that live in our county, but the majority of them are keeping their airplanes elsewhere. And so we on the commission, we ask ourselves that question all the time, why is that? And we know the answer. The answer is we haven't had fuel sales. We don't have the right kind of approach. But we're getting it, it's coming. Things like the weather system, things like a nice FBO. As you can see in my picture, that's our Katrina trailer that we're proud of. But that's currently, if you're a passenger and you fly into Monroe right now, and you need a place to go to the bathroom, or a place to wait for your car to get here, that's where you're going to wait. So I wanted to just make sure that you guys understand that. And then I'm going to give to you, Mr. Mayor, this is my current list showing everybody that's on my waiting list. And these are 10 letters from people that have signed saying they're ready to give us their money and lease a hangar immediately.
What is the lease amount per month?
Currently, we're leasing for T hangars. The standard T hangar unit's $200 a month. The units on the end, which we have 4 of, are $240 a month. They're a little larger, and that's pretty competitive. I mean, that's a good price. People ask me all the time. We've discussed it in our meetings. Could we go up? Well, I found that $250 is pretty much the highest anybody around us. Covington, Winder, Jackson County. We look at those airports and see what are they renting hangars for. I have found that one of my students who just bought an airplane, leasing a hangar over at, he went to Winder. And one of my students got a hangar for $250, another one got one for $300, but the $300 had an electric door and a bathroom and water, so it's kind of what you offer. Our hangars are slide doors, the ones that we're having, the one that we're proposing to build is just slide doors, and the going rate is pretty much $200 a month. So, whether or not we can.
And we're going to get into that in just a minute.
Any questions?
On our agenda, discussing it. Any questions for Rodney?
I think I covered everything within my list here. Yep. Very good. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We got a couple other items, Mayor. One is, I'm going to ask Chris to brief us on. It's the approval of FBO building insulation repair.
Yeah, there's we have an airport expense line item in the budget. I think we got $25,000 in there that we funded at the beginning of this budget year, and we have roughly $12,000 left. We're asking that the committee approve a recommendation to basically replace the insulation that's currently in there. It's the old kind that's basically just kind of hung in the ceiling, where it tears, falls down. It's been there for years, and this would go back with a spray foam insulation that comes with a lifetime warranty, and would basically kind of cap off fixing up the FBO building, and we're hoping that we can get that done in December before SI actually opens on January 1. So I was asking for approval to get that done. We asked for, I think, 5 quotes. We got 2 back because everybody was busy this time of year, but it was also the low bid that we used to budget for the item. So.
I'd like to move forward that we make a motion to move forward to approval full council with the low bid that Chris has recommended. Second by Norman. All in favor? Opposed? We'll recommend that to full council. The next item Chris also has, talking about the airport layout plan that was approved.
Yeah, and Larry had actually mentioned that they brought, we had 3 alternatives put together for the airport. The commission voted unanimously to go with option number 2, which was the least expensive. It come up to a total of about $1.75 million at the city's expense to build it out. Those items are actually listed in the CIP of what it's going to take to actually finish that. It also leaves 2 large areas on both sides for future expansion. So once you accomplish this part of it, then you move forward, you design the rest of it. So essentially what we're asking is that, we gain acceptance approval for the council to accept the AOP and the CIP as it was approved by the airport commission.
And I would just say that those are safety improvements is what we've highlighted there, and the Airport Commission agreed, and our DOT representative was here as well as our airport consultant. And so they're all safety related things that we need to do.
Yeah, and on our CIP too, I'll add that we had actually, we discovered that in, I think, 2012, I believe was the date on it, that the east and west aprons needed paving. It was basically a safety issue that was projected to be done in the next 5 years. Well, that puts us next year, so we bumped that up on the CIP to be done in 2018, which is the state fiscal year. And then we also, in talking with our consultant, our engineer, we left the design and construction of the T-hangers on the potential CIP, which it was pointed out by the state, and Larry also mentioned it is low priority for being funded, and especially until you get the safety issues taken care of first. So just a little bit of detail on that. But yeah, everything's pretty much in order. The option 2 is what was voted to bring to council. Then the CIP as well.
I need a motion to approve option 2.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? That passes. We'll recommend that to full council. And then I guess we're going to take another minute or 2 and just discuss this airport hangar project. And I know Chris has worked hard on it with these guys. And while you're there, do you want to touch on a little bit about really what we're asking to do tonight, just so everybody knows, is just to
open the discussions
up, allow us to move forward with further exploring financing options. We're not voting tonight to do anything.
Right, and kind of what the city staff had done is we had taken the recommendation of the commission, being unanimous that we explore a potential loan option. Logan had looked into USDA loans, which are not going to be available until we're denied local loans by 2 banks. You'll have to see how that goes. It was pointed out too from the DOT that I think if you factored in, I'm pretty sure the exact words he used, but if you factored in 100 items on what grant funding will provide, hangars are going to be like number 98. So they are low priority. It's just going to be based on if the money's there. But what we had done is drafted a letter and sent out separately from the Airport Commission to seek interest. And we sent it to the same, I think, 33 individuals that are on the list. Currently, we have 6 people that have responded to us. We did ask for a few different requirements. We asked that they put down a 6-month deposit that would be basically factored into their 6 months rent. We did list it at approximately $1,800, which is on the high side. But we don't know exactly what the hangars would cost us if we go out and get a loan, you know, based on what you're paying, rates, terms, everything. The rough expense of a T hangar is on the CIP is basically turnkey at $375,000. So that's a fairly substantial size loan. And it's something, you know, that's from dirt removal, that's preparation, that's concrete pad, that's utilities, it's engineering, design, it's the actual construction of the building. It's, you know, let's decide to do it, and then here are the keys.
Well, we obviously still have a lot of work to do to before we can do anything. But I mean, these guys have got some numbers that they've estimated to be much lower than that, and we're not here to debate that tonight. We just need to come together. They think they can do it a lot cheaper than that. And then the 6 commitments you have, that's great, but you know, these people, they don't know when this project would actually start or be finished. So people are going to be slow to commit if they don't know when then a building may be constructed. So I mean, I did a little homework myself, and I feel like the demand is more than there.
And I wouldn't disagree
for
with
the
that.
hangars, yeah.
So I think the cost they have is $142,000. That's to construct the actual.
Just the building, yeah.
$139,275 is a bid.
So yeah,
There's
so
a whole lot more to it.
Yeah, I understand.
This is just.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess what we're talking about tonight is, I mean, the meeting last month, these guys felt like they were kind of hit a roadblock, and we just want to open it back up. And Jimmy and Norman, they've been involved in some meetings. They may have some insight as well, but we need to, before we just kill this, we need to explore it a little more and get some numbers. And I mean, if it's revenue neutral and it's going to help the economic development of our city long term, and we're just, you know, light years behind other cities in terms of airport amenities, I think we need to be looking at it. So,
and that's what we're attempting to bring to the council is the business case
right.
that can be made, sort of like when you're building condominium, something you want to pre-sell,
sure,
and get commitments. And so we're getting those, and they're getting those, and so we'll just see where it is. Now, the only thing about this is we'll come to the council later. Don't want to get ahead of myself, but we just finished our budget, and this is not in the budget, and the ink's not dry on that one yet. So if you're going to borrow money to something you don't have in your cycle, you can do it, but it'd be a budget amendment alone, the thing you'd have to do. And so that was our sort of, you know, response first. It's like, wow, this is in our budget. This is already over almost. How are we going to do this? But let's see what the market says.
Sure.
We'll bring it back to you, and it'll be to the council in a few weeks, probably January.
And whether it's 200 or 400,000, I mean, Logan might need to explore what a couple local banks would do.
What, by how many hangars would be in that?
8.
8 hangars. Be it's 8 units within that T hangar. We currently have 2, and there are 8 in each of those.
And your revenue would be your rent, which is going to range from $2 to $250 per hangar plus. I mean, hopefully you get some property tax revenue when people move their hangars, when their aircraft in.
I mean, it's going to be just one of those things that the revenue will eventually help pay the loan back or pay the city back. We just decide to do it out of local funds.
Yeah.
It just depends on what we do. We'll try to put together some options.
Yeah.
Plus, certainly it will enhance the use of fuel and increase that aspect as well, I would think, if you've got 16 more planes.
It would.
Yeah, there's 10 ways you could nitpick it and find a way not to do it, but at some point we got to take a hard look.
We're definitely not trying to find a way.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying at some point during the airport, this is something that's got to be done.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with that, and you know that's why we have added it down here as number 4 for the CIP going forward, because we're just hoping that some of these state transportation dollars will continue to roll in strong, and they will fund it. I mean, that's why it's here. We may not get to it right away, but I guess from my point of view is I'm not trying to slow roll it, I just want to see what happens. And see
Sure.
if we can get that funding.
And be safe about it.
And if not, if it doesn't get funded this cycle, you know, when did he say we would know, Joseph? June, July?
You know, the 1st of July.
Yeah.
And if any of you guys have questions, now's the time to ask Chris or Larry or.
That's
Right.
just good stuff.
As well on those 8 units would bring in about 20,000 a year,
Roughly.
roughly 20,000 a year.
What we don't know now is the total cost. I mean, we got one guy saying
Well,
150, one guy saying 4. I mean, we got.
and I'll support that 375 number simply because Barge Wagner's put this together as an engineering firm, as our consultant for years. And they were dead on the fuel farm, they were dead on the AWAS, they've been correct on everything. So, I mean, from a turnkey standpoint, you're gonna be close to that number.
But we can potentially do some things ourselves.
It's possible.
I mean, it's easy to turn the key and just hire a contractor, but we can maybe do some grading or, we have dirt, you know.
We'll look at all those options.
That's all I'm saying.
We're planning to come back to you in January, our meeting in January, with all this wrapped up and have our options and see how much more study, whatever. We'll be back in January.
So
And in the SPOS funds that we have that were earmarked transportation, I know we've designated some of those, but is that an avenue for a partial amount to help fund?
Those were set aside specifically for grant matches, right? So if we have to put forward, what is this, $93,750 as our local match to the state's $281,250. I mean, that's a good deal for us. That's pretty much how we've set up the SPLOST funds. Now, if we were to leverage out SPLOST and use out the full 375, that may infringe upon a couple other projects that we have, sidewalks and so on and so forth. So we have to be careful how we get into the local fund deal before we start looking at loans. We might split it. We could do that.
I think when you talk to some other cities that might be willing to help out with some of this stuff with the airport.
Well, I mean, that all comes forward with, you know, what happens between cities and service delivery strategies that, you know, I think are discussed. And it's, you know, there's always options of getting other people involved, as opposed to the city of Monroe funding it 100% out of pocket.
I did talk to some commissioners that were willing to actually look into it and see if it was something that they could actually help with. I definitely encourage y'all to talk to the county to try to get them on board to actually pull this through and make sure you can go ahead and do the hangar and not try to fund it all just because we're Monroe. Get more people actually involved in it because the airport gonna fund the Walton County, not just Monroe. So if they going in social service, they could also be a part of it. Local could also be a part of it. We need to stop thinking that Monroe have to do all of this stuff and look into talking to the different cities and also with the county to make sure that we got all the resources to be able to actually get it done. And I think if we can get them to actually buy into it, then that's something that we can get done sooner than later.
We have, of course, you said you talked to him. We've talked to him. I went back with Mr. Fussell and Roddy. We went to talk to Kevin Little one time. And so there's some possibilities of swapping out dirt and so forth. They like to have all the dirt, but we need some of it. But I mean, you know, there's all kind of things it could be. But we first want to see if the council wanted to even consider jumping off that rock. And now that you say, yeah, we'll consider that, then now we'll start looking at more ways to do things. So y'all giving us the go-ahead to keep researching. So we'll come back to you in January.
And that's all I wanted to do tonight.
Keep researching.
Nancy, can I make one comment?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
I just want to make one comment. The Airport Commission, y'all appointed us about 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, we put as our two #1 goals. #1, fuel farm. It took us a while to get it, but we got it. But at the same time, 2.5 years ago, we identified that hangar was equal to fuel farm. And it's been very frustrating to us because we've been pushing this for 2.5 years. And we've been getting phone calls, the flying community, all the pilots, out there, they ask us every day, you know, when we get more hangers, Hangers drive fuel sales, and I just want to reemphasize, that's where the money is, you know, and we've got to, you know, and I just.
Well, we certainly appreciate y'all coming tonight. I think that the consensus is we'll move forward with exploring it, and I don't think there's any action needed, is there?
No,
Ron?
sir. No, sir.
Okay, that's it for the airport.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank the airport committee and the commission. You know, you guys got to understand we move as fast as we can. The improvements have been, since we started concentrating on the airport, has been a lot better. And we'll get there. Just we got to move at the pace that we have to move at. So we certainly appreciate it. And appreciate y'all's push to better the airport.
And Mr. Mayor, we appreciate the council's abiding with us in this. It is a joint project. We're working very diligently to make progress out there because it's progress for all of our community, not just for the airport and certainly not for us, but just it is a vital infrastructure, and we appreciate your patience in working with us.
It is very important, not only for the city, but as Norman said, for the county. And we, you know, we're working on other things right now that we can enlighten you in a little bit later as we go along. But you know, you know, you're absolutely right. You got to have a place to put airplanes before they'll come to you. So,
thank you.
We got some marching orders now, so we'll work. Thank you very much. Public Works.
We don't have anything.
Okay. Utilities.
Thank you, Mayor. Approval of rehab of primaries 3 and 4 at the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you, Mr. Little. This is the primaries that we talked about in our budget meetings. We had discussed making the needed repairs to 3 and 4. Get those up and running while Carl designs the belt press. So we're asking to purchase the chain for these 2 units at $18,900 from Tipleton and Associates, or Amwell. They changed their name. There's only 2 bids, and the reason for that is it's the chain that plant specs. These are the only 2 contractors that can sell it in the state of Georgia. So the reason there's only 2. You got any questions on?
You're looking at buying it and your staff doing the work.
Yeah, the staff's going to perform the work. Yes. And what we're going to do to try to keep some of the costs down, we're hoping that when we drain the primaries 1 and 2, that maybe we can pull some of those sprockets out. Maybe we can find some good parts in there to use to keep from having to spend up to $200,000 we talked about earlier. We're going to try to keep that cost down as much as we can.
May need to be done. Is there any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we present to the full council for approval the amount of $18,900 from Amwell's proposal.
Motion by Mr. Bradley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Perkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We recommend that to full council. Internal gutter repair at the water treatment plant, Rodney.
Thank you, Mr. Little. This is at the this is for the water treatment plant. If you remember, if you ever go out by the plant, you notice the outside, the exterior wall actually goes above the roof. So basically, what it is, the roof comes down behind the wall, and there's an internal gutter there. That thing's been leaking for years. We constantly made repairs and used asphalt type patching and did everything we could do to try to prolong it. It's to the point now that